those joining us in the audience to this workshop session with the experts from Sensedia. My name's Claire Barrett. I'm a director at APIs First, and I'm delighted to moderate this conversation today. David, please, could you introduce yourself? Joining us from Spain.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is David Roldan Martinez. I'm pre-sales solutions architect in Sensedia. I'm based in Spain. I'm over 20 years of experience architecting systems, and I'm an API enthusiast.
Lovely. Welcome. And Filipe, you're joining us from Brazil.
Yeah, I am. So I'm Filipe Garbim. I'm a solutions architect here at Sensedia. I'm located in Brazil. Our headquarters are located in Campinas, precisely. And over 13 years of experience in working with integration, SOA, microservices, APIs, BPM, and all of those buzzwords. And I have experience in multiple industries like banking, financial, telecom, insurance, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Right. Okay. And we've got Gibson is joining us via online chat by the looks of it. It sounds like you may be having some platform issues. So maybe Gibson, say hi. Thank you. We can see you there on the call. You can join in and provide an extra dimension to the experience with some online chat. And for those of you who maybe haven't joined one of these workshop formats before, it's not so much presentation, much more of a conversation. We have some questions that came through in advance for the session from some of you, and you're welcome to contribute into the online chat as we go through. So might kick off. This conversation was very much about open banking and open insurance and Sensedia's position in that. A lot of people talk about APIs and microservices as perhaps being a panacea, a solution to every problem. But there's some practical realities there. What's Sensedia's position on this? David, maybe would you like to go first?
Yeah, for sure. Microservices are expanding all over the sectors and the market. There is a strong belief that microservices have the solution for almost everything, but that's not true. They are very good solutions for some cases, but not for others. We are as Sensedia, we are in favor of microservices, but we are also in favor of our customers. So what we do is to assess the customer situation and try to propose him or her the best solution to reach their business challenges. Hi, Gibson. How are you?
Hey, good. Apologies for my delay. I was stuck in the sharing screen pop-up.
Lovely to have you. Would you quickly introduce yourselves and please add anything more to David's comments just now?
Sure. So, Gibson Nascimento, I'm the head of solutions at Sensedia, looking after the EMEA region. Apologies, but I missed his speech because I was refreshing everything and trying to connect again. But I believe that whatever he said there, it's okay. I will agree. I can't contest.
Why don't I throw a next question to you then, Gibson?
Please.
The concept of open in banking or insurance can often create for some people a little bit of a nervousness, particularly if you come from a heritage of managing risk, which is thankfully for those of us who bank or in insurance policies is kind of what they're employed to do. But open might seem like a little bit of a uncomfortable term. How do you manage this conversation with your customers?
Yeah, so that's a very good point, Claire. Banks, specifically banks, they have been telling their customers for a while that their data is protected, they have everything in a black box, all secure. And now they are coming and say, hey, I'm going to share your data with third parties. What we've been telling our customers is that there's a lot of education for the end consumers, of course. So they need to explain how the data is going to be shared, what exactly is happening, the reason for sharing that data, but also there is a lot of, let's say, not only end consumer education, but also there is a lot of technology to enable or to guarantee that this information or the data is going to be really transmitted, shared in a in a secure way. So the way that we are talking to customers is make sure that you comply with regulation. You have ways, platforms that help you to do that by delivering security on the channel, by providing facilities for end consumers to be recognized and not someone else using your account. So there's fingerprinting, there's face recognition, multi-factor authentications. We've been talking about this for a while now. So we've been basically telling them that they have to provide secure way for the end consumers to authenticate themselves, but also to protect the data throughout the journey, from the moment that the end consumer is logging in using their mobile app, a website, up to the moment that the data is transmitted to a partner, for example, securing every single step of the chain. That's how we are talking to customers and explaining them about this whole fear of having the data exposed from the end consumers.
You're mute, Claire.
I was having a little bit of a technical glitch. Is anybody else having a problem?
I am. Actually, I can't see you. I can hear you, but I can't see you. I only see black boxes. Yeah. But that's okay. I can hear you at least.
You can hear us. That's great. I'll just go and see if I've got maybe there's a bandwidth problem. So some of this openness in terms of security, there's a particular kind of challenges that concerns that people have that that you address, and how do you go about doing that?
All right, so I can go with this one. Yeah, when we are talking about security in open environments, actually this subject is always strict, right? But fortunately, there are tons of integration platforms out there, right? And they offer mechanisms to deal with potential threats. So just let me give you a few examples here, bring to the table a few examples. So let's talk about authentication. That's the first way to protect our APIs from this open world, right? So what is an authentication? Basically, it proves that the user, the human or the application trying to access a remote server, or if the API itself are really who they say they are. And basically how you can do that, you use two parameters, an API ID and an API key. So you use them in order to control the utilization of the API and even track how they are being used. So basically, that's the first one, right? You have to authenticate the user. The second one is the authorization, because not all authenticated users will necessarily be authorized to access all provided APIs, right? So that's where authorization comes in. So for example, if the users acquire access to retrieve or get information, but should not be able to change it or use the put method, right, in the APIs, you can restrict access to that specific resource, right? So you can use, for example, some access control framework, such as OAuth, for example. You can control the list of APIs that each specific API key, now that where the API key comes in, can access. So see, the API key is the minimum requirement for authentication, but you must use other mechanisms to better protect your APIs. So we talked about authentication, authorization, and there is also the worry of surrounding massive amount attacks, right? So massive amount of API requests can cause the DOS attacks or misuse of the APIs. So what you can do is you can limit the number of requests in a given interval of each API. And you can use, for example, rate limiting for that. So you can block access temporarily to that specific scenario, and then 429 error, for example, can return to the user, right? So you can do that. There is another thing that we have to worry, right? It is about the network security. So you can also protect the request in transit, like using TLS or MTLS. So remember, HTTPS is mandatory. Don't open your APIs without a certificate, right? And there is also, finally, last but not least, it is possible to configure policies in the API management or the API gateway using, for example, cross-site scripting protection, SQL injection protection, XML injection protection. So there are tons of policies that you can use to protect your APIs. So there are really many security mechanisms available. I just mentioned a few here, but it's crucial that each scenario is analyzed and one or more mechanisms defined for sure.
Thank you. So if one just sort of steps back up a bit in terms of some of the buying choices that your customers have, banks and insurers have an option of either building some of their own capability to support open banking or open insurance, or they have an option to invest in a platform such as yours. What are some of the advantages that you offer your clients in this space? Maybe David would be happy to answer this question.
Yeah, for sure. An integration platform, being simple and concrete, it can be defined as a manage of a reduced set of different technologies whose aim is to be able to interconnect the company with the rest of the world. So we strongly recommend to use an integration platform because, for example, you can have pre-built open banking configurations. Also, learning cubes are shorter. You can also take the benefits of a componentized architecture. It also allows you to adapt the solution to banks of any size. And of course, it's easily extensible to other digital transformation initiatives. So that's why it's better to rely on or to build your journey to open banking or to digital transformation on top of an integration platform instead of a closed solution.
And if I may add to that, Claire, I guess that most of the non-functional requirements, like Filipe mentioned, a few security standards that you can implement, all of those security patterns implemented, they are in fact non-functional requirements, right? So if you're building something in-house, you do need to guarantee that all of those requirements and even availability, scalability, they are all part of your own solution, instead of making sure that your business gets properly implemented. So the platforms, they offer you all of this. So you basically make sure that you guarantee your business it's properly delivered, and that the platforms are dealing with all these non-functional requirements that for sure takes a lot of time to get them fully and correctly implemented.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I mean, if you've got any particular examples of customers or even sort of anonymous, spaces where you've been able to really make a difference, it would be lovely for the audience to perhaps hear a bit about that.
Yeah, so we do have a few scenarios, right? So we have scenarios where, for example, the customers, one of our customers, they had a great service, of Forex service. They wanted to promote that, and building that in-house would take them too long. We help them to review their architecture. So what exactly are the pieces of technology or even standards that you have to implement to enable you to expose. And by the way, they started doing that even before open banking was a trend, so they were doing open banking without knowing they were doing open banking. Because again, open banking is more than just the regulation, it's actually going beyond it, right? So then these guys, by reviewing their architecture, by bringing new pieces and putting the API platform on top of it, they managed to increase the onboarding time of new partners. They increased from, I can't remember what they initially started with, but they moved to 70 new partners in a space of 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. The number of new contracts created increased dramatically because they didn't really need to spend time onboarding the partners, teaching the partners how to integrate with their APIs, because they have built an API portal with all the information that partners would need to do this integration. The APIs were all there, ready to be used, fully supported, scalable. So that's just one simple example of one or a few small APIs that added loads of values to the business, and also for the end consumers, for the partners, which are the end consumers in this case, because they benefited as well by having a clear documentation on how to integrate with the platform. So all of these open initiatives, they do benefit a lot of the platform when the services are well designed, well defined, documentation is well presented to the partners. It's a big differentiator, I would say.
No, thank you, Gibson. I think that's really helpful. One of the a lot of organizations, your kinds of clients and customers, or people using your platforms, are looking to adopt APIs alongside microservices architectures. And how is that relevant for their kind of position from an open environment perspective? Maybe Filipe, you'd like to answer?
Yeah, sure, Claire. So microservices are very important. They play a very important role in this scenario, right? So let's just understand what is a microservice. Basically, it is focused in a small set of features. So microservices, they are a way of breaking large software projects like monolith applications into loosely coupled modules. So you can use microservices in order to break those monolith applications, and also you can use microservices to start a new product or even a new company. So when you are considering migrating your legacy, let's talk about migrating legacy banking and insurance softwares to microservices. So when you are considering migrating those legacy banking and insurance softwares to an open banking and open insurance architectures, it is recommended to decouple your backend through the use of APIs and microservices, because there are a lot of benefits of using microservices. For example, you can improve fault isolation. So larger applications can remain mostly unaffected by the failure of a single module, for example. It is easy to understand because they are small, and then if you have to maintain, it is better. So you can do that more quickly, and then you can even use microservices to deploy something very fast, rather than using a legacy banking. So when it comes to open environments, Claire, the most important advantage of using microservices is that each microservice is able to deploy independently, and it also can be scaled on its own. So you can allocate resources to those parts of the application more demanding. So we can more easily scale the most needed ones at the appropriate times, as opposed to the whole, let's say, application, right? So it's true that, however, that the complexity associated with the management and coordination increases. Like it is hard to maintain. You have to change the culture of the company to use microservices. But if the system is properly sized and configured, advantages will clearly to drawbacks, for sure.
No, that's thank you. That's so helpful. Obviously, organizations that are looking to adopt some of these more open models requires a big cultural change from not just understanding, the customers as developers, thinking about, product centricity, not in terms of banking products, but digital products. What are some of the things that you're seeing that people need to be really thinking about as they're addressing their legacy business models? Gibson, is this a question for yourself?
Yeah. I guess that Garbim mentioned something there, so when you have your legacy model, if you adopt APIs, if you adopt microservices, so this kind of approach, they bring loads of advantages, but there's a big cultural change. So you need, of course, complying with the regulatory framework. It's great. Putting some APIs in front of your legacy business models, it's fine. But then you need first to understand exactly the potential of your business. So are you just providing the data for the regulatory framework, or would you want to go one step beyond and think about what are the other potential services or the potential information data that I could expose to a partner, or that I could expose to maybe a fintech and an app developer? I know that when we talk about banking, insurance sectors, they're more traditional. They're not going to provide fully open APIs, but still, you need to understand your model, what kind of valuable information you have at your backend. And I used to call that this is a journey. So it's understanding what you have, and then figuring out what kind of architecture will enable you to expose that data, that service that you want to expose. Always making sure that you're aligning business strategies as well, because there's no point in exposing an API, creating a microservices strategy that will then enable you to expose APIs if you're not aligning with business. Specifically because when we talk about microservice implementations to a customer, we never tell them that microservices is just about technology. We always tell them that it's about how you break. So Filipe mentioned about breaking down the applications. So you don't just break down application based on technical requirements. So you bring business together. Business sits together with technology teams, and then they define what is part of the business and how we are going to enable that as an application, and then ultimately how we expose an API out of that application. So we align business together with these definitions of architecture definitions, how we expose things. And then it's about understanding your role inside a bigger ecosystem. So you're either providing the ecosystem, so you're creating a marketplace that will allow third parties to connect to it, or do you want to be part of an ecosystem, so a bigger marketplace, or as we are talking about open finance, we know that this is the next step of open banking, bringing together insurance, wealth management, savings, banking, and even further open data, where we bring retail, utilities, health, education. So where exactly do you want to position yourself? And then at the end, as a result of this big journey, I would say it's about understanding everything that you did, and maybe because you did in a small fashion, an MVP, and now replicating everything, knowing exactly how you are going to position yourself. So there are huge benefits, and we are talking to our customers that they have to always be aligning with business, aligning technology, and making sure that whatever they are exposing, it's really meaningful for the business.
And I think, Gibson, that's a fantastic sort of summary of some of the big questions that organizations are or should be asking with this sort of very tight alignment between the technology enablement of these business directions and strategies, which are really changing the landscape. And for people, if they're not thinking about it, they absolutely should be here and learning from organizations such as yours about what people are doing. If you can believe it, we're already at time.
Yeah.
25 minutes goes always so quickly.
Yeah,
is there anything each of you would just like to sum up as we farewell the team? I can't see any questions on the online chat. I know we've covered broadly most of the ones that were posted in.
Yeah, so just to wrap up, like I said, think about the whole journey, plan it properly, align business and IT, and we are more than happy to have a chat to help whenever needed. And like to Claire, thank you very much for the moderation, really good, and thanks API Day for this another chance to be partners again. Really good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. These conferences wouldn't be possible without support from organizations like yours. And I think you're also at the village, aren't you, if anybody wants to get in touch?
Absolutely. We are there. Just get in touch. More than happy to have a chat.
Lovely. Thank you, David, Filipe, and Gibson.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Claire.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you.